details, guaranteed. Visit arnoldclark.com.
Welcome to Peter and Roughie's Football Show, sponsored by Arnold Clark. I'm Peter Martin. It is Thursday, which means Alan Rough is joined by Tam Cowan and Stevie Naismith. Delighted to have you guys with us. Don't forget to like, share and follow us on our Facebook. And also you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is exactly, I think, what Andy in China did. And he's been watching the show regularly every day. So thank you, Andy in China as well. Clearly working over there and follows every word that's spoken and gives us his opinion, which is really what we want you to do about your favourite team or indeed international football. We'll hear from Steve Clark and Andy Robertson very shortly. The press conference is just finished and hopefully we'll get some of the answers from them over the next 10 or 15 minutes. So Scotland against Israel will dominate our thoughts. I've got the guys to give us their team as well. Hard to believe it, Roughie. What a time to look back. Over a year ago, Roughie, this very day, we signed Tam Cowan in a deal that was possibly on the same par with Naismith moves to Everton. It was that difficult in negotiations, and it was at the same level, Roughie. I can't believe it.
Yeah, I can't believe it either. I mean, we scared about everybody, to see what idiot would come for the cheapest price. I was absolutely stunned when you said Tam was coming in, because I thought he would just rip the backside at it. But obviously not. He came because he likes what he does.
Exactly. Did you not offer it to Derek Johnston, Roughie? No, it's one year ago today, Peter, and genuinely, I'd like to say thank you to the PLZ Soccer family for embracing me. And I must say as well, signing for PLZ Soccer, Peter, was what I could describe as life-changing, because it was only when I joined you lot that my wee girl was eligible for free school meals.
Yes, absolutely. Listen, there are times, Stephen, when you've got to join for the love of it rather than the big spondoolies. Is that fair?
Absolutely. And listen, can we have a bit of fun, mate? Because I know you're always getting on at certain Facebookers who go into all the horrible football forum stuff and the Twitter garbage. Here's a wee thing for everybody tuned in on Facebook. Get your answers in. What would be a suitable anniversary gift for me? What would be an appropriate gift when you've had 1 year working with Peter and Roughie? I think that's a good thing, right? Get your suggestions in. Peter can read out the best ones.
Yeah, and by the way, Roughie, I owe you a tenner because you said it would take him a year before he took over the show, and I said no, there's no way he'll do it. But he's there. Get your answers in now because Tam's on the case. Absolutely brilliant. No, that would be great. A year, we'll get you a present. I'm almost certain about it. It's amazing actually, Roughie, because apart from Tam and obviously our friendship, which goes back such a long way, our friendship with Stevie has just come all that way along. Roughie, we're down there, and we've followed his career. We've been interviewing him all over the years. It was written in the stars that he had to come and join us, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was great. I mean, after that trip we had down south to see him, I said to you in the car, back up, there's another idiot we could get eventually.
yeah, absolutely.
Hey, talking of idiots and Stevie Naismith, I went down last week to the restaurant that Stevie's got a wee bit of involvement in, right? The oven in Stewarton, and you're right. It was very nice. I've told Stephen as well, but talking about idiots, right? Now, the guy, another one of Stephen's colleagues in the restaurant had cordially invited me down. Tam, come on down, try the grub for us and stick it up your Instagram and that. Tell us what you think, okay? Once a restaurant reviewer, always a restaurant reviewer. And I'm only happy, particularly in these times, Peter, to support small Scottish businesses and Scottish restaurants. So, as is my want, of course, if ever you happen to get a freebie, you make sure you always leave a tip. So, as Stevie can get back up for the staff on this one, I left £20 on my way out of the oven restaurant, and it was only when I get back in the car and looked again at the menu I realised that my total expenditure on the food was actually £19.40. So so I left a £20 tip. I was 60 pence down in the deal. some freebie that was.
Absolutely.
That was lovely. It was lovely.
Glad you enjoyed it.
If you're in Stuart, get down to the oven tonight.
Yeah, is that? Have you got a little share in that, Stephen, in that restaurant?
Yeah, I do. Just a bit of fun, but it's worked out really well, to be fair. And when you've got Tam telling you it's good, then it's going the right way.
Well, absolutely, because he's a mean connoisseur, to be perfectly honest with you. So he knows his food, knows his grub, knows the right ambience in many a restaurant. So well done, the oven. I've got to mention more than a few people here. Stuart Dowd says, "Morning, lads. It's a pleasure to join you live this morning from Key West in Florida." Now, I wonder, here's Tam, I'm going to test you on this. What is Key West and the Keys famous for? I
think it would be
literary genius.
Oh, is it Hemingway?
Yes, well done, Tam. Brilliant. That's why you're here, son. That is why you're here. And so many people. Una Brennan says, to get Tam something for his anniversary, why not give him a T-shirt? This is not for you. This is not the show for you T-shirt for Tam, because there's a few people who use choice language, and we always say to them, if you're going to offer an opinion, make sure you try and keep it clean and within the lines. So Scotland against Israel. We will hear from Steve Clarke and Andy Robertson. We'll also let you see our possibly what we think the team will be. Whether it is that or not, God only knows. What do you make of the whole Ollie McBurnie situation, Stephen? We were highly critical of him because it was a situation where you can only deal with what's in front of you and the information that you've been given. And Ollie McBurnie plays in a friendly, and then suddenly everybody steams in on him. But he's come out saying basically that he would, walk over broken glass to play for Scotland, but he had a laceration in his foot, and the decision was taken out of his hands.
And to be honest, that is the case. They've been up in Scotland last week, and they actually played against us at the Oriam, and Ollie sat out. He hadn't trained all week. I understand people see the initial, he's come on as a sub, he doesn't care, he's had previous. But Ollie's character, Ollie's such a good guy around the squad that most of the squad won't have anything but good things to say about him. He's had it tough playing in the games he's played, but it's not been that great a period that he's been involved in. There's been a lot of change. There's not been a settled main group. And I think he's had a bit of a raw deal at times. And in my experience of being in the national team, there's always one or two characters that people will happily jump on without giving them a fair chance at it. And Ollie comes under that category for me. He does like coming away, enjoys being involved with the group and playing international football. So I think rightly so the managers have come out and kind of cleared the situation up, but it's another time where he gets a bit of hard done by.
Yeah, 2 quick points. I'm going to go to Tam and Roughie on this, but I want to give you 2 quick points on this, Stephen. It's not the fact. I think Ollie McBurnie, you said he's been unfairly treated. I think that is the case. I think he needs a bit of love from the Tartan Army, needs a bit of promotion from elsewhere. And obviously, the third thing, the element, the most important one, is he needs to actually, scores a goal and everybody forgets about it.
Yeah.
But the way that whole thing was handled, the manager should have come out and just said, look, he's out, he's going to play a friendly, he might play 5-10 minutes or 45 minutes, but it's the misinformation, it's the controlling of certain things. It's a PR nightmare, because what happens is you get the PR guy who sits with the Scotland manager and says, watch this, watch that, do this, don't do this, don't say that. And all of a sudden, by not saying something, it opened up a can of worms for him.
But that's no Ollie's fault. And that's the point I would make, that he is the talking point, but it's not his fault that the communication between the media team or managers or whatever hasn't made it out there. And again, the outpour of it all and the backlash he takes personally isn't right. It shouldn't happen. But yes, I agree that it could have been said he's left out because he's not trained much, he's not played much, blah blah blah. But that isn't all his fault, and that's my point in all this.
Yeah, I agree with you. It was the lack of information that really kind of set this whole thing on fire, Tam.
Yeah, and gut reaction, Peter, as a supporter, you immediately think you want to get in with the tackety boots and absolutely flame the player. But I've already read enough on this for Steve Clarke, the Scotland manager, and for at least 2 or 3 of the Scotland players in the squad who have got every sympathy for Ollie McBurnie. And they clearly know a lot more about the situation than any one of the 4 of us. So I'm not going to get my knickers in a twist over this. But it never looks great. And we've had instances of this in the past, Peter, when players, drop out of squads and then you almost can't wait until, normally the English League starting up again at the weekend to see how many of those players who dropped out of the squad play for their club that weekend. It becomes almost like a popular parlour game in Scotland. But no, for what I've read so far, for Stevie Clarke, the manager, all the way down through the players, I'm non-fussed about this.
Yeah, Patrick Drum says, do you have to be from the other side of the world to get a shout out on this show? Patrick, you don't. So I want to say, Patrick, thank you for joining us on the programme. We do mention people from near and far who join us. There's so many people talk to us from abroad, but we also value greatly all the people who are from around here, because that is our bread and butter. So Patrick, tell us where you're from. We'll give you a mention. Anyway, apart from anything else, hi to so many of you joined on Facebook and YouTube as well. Scotland-Israel is the first of this double header. Of course, it does mean something. I would suggest, I think yesterday I mentioned it as somewhat of a friendly. It does have, as the nations group, the prize of trying to qualify for the World Cup over a long period of time towards 2022. And then, of course, in the next month, we will be playing Israel in a playoff for Euro 2020, which will take place in 2021, if you can follow all that. Our reporter, Gabriel Antoniazzi, has a look at the opposition for Friday night.
Scotland take on Israel in Friday's Nations League opener, having faced them twice 2 years ago in the competition's inaugural tournament. And it's 1 month before they faced them in the Euro 2020 playoff semi-final. Back in 2018, the home side won 2-1 in Haifa thanks to a late Kieran Tierney own goal, before the Scots avenged the loss with a James Forrest hat-trick at Hampden, securing a 3-2 victory and the Nations League C title. Israel had a turgid 2019, winning only one of their last 7 matches, which eventually cost manager Andy Herzog his job, with fellow Austrian Willi Ruttensteiner now in caretaker charge. Player-wise, Scottish audiences will be familiar with Celtic duo Hatem Abd El-Hamed and Nir Beaton, as well as goalkeeper Ofir Marciano of Hibs. Their 3 most dangerous players, Mones Dabour, Erin Zahavi and Sean Weisman, are all strikers, and they'll pose a threat to Steve Clarke's backline. They often do play with a back 3, which is also something for Clarke to ponder. Scotland are favourites for the match and for October's semi-final, but Friday's game will likely be a dry run, with 2 familiar foes working each other out for the real show next month.
Yeah, okay, if you have a look at that, Roughie, they've got some good players there. So as we are improving, this is an Israel side that will cause us problems.
Yeah, I think they caused us problems the last time at Hampden. If I can remember correctly, I think it was a Davy Marshall unbelievable save in the last minute of the game that got us the win. So no, I think we saw on that night that they do have players that can hurt us. I think it all depends on which players are up to speed. I think which players have been playing. We know a lot of our guys haven't been playing regularly, so it is an on the night for me. I don't think there's much between the two sides. My biggest worry is there isn't 50,000 Scottish supporters in the stadium, shouting the team on. I've never played in front with no crowd there, so I don't know how it would be. But I think it's a bit of a leveller for them. They're coming in for a free hit, nobody breathing down their neck. And it'll be a strange atmosphere, but I hope we're good enough to beat them.
Yeah, Matt Brown is watching our programme on YouTube. Big hi to you, Matt. Hugh Scott says Stevie should have called Eamon Brophy in rather than Callum Patterson. Of course, it's all about opinions. Kenny Whitson says the first anniversary for anyone we all know is paper. So how about a pack of 24 toilet rolls for Tam, says Kenny. Yes, and Peter, hi from Kirkcaldy, says Gary McGurn. I don't know about you, Roughie, but I've had I've had a right good few good nights out in Kirkcaldy. It used to have a great nightclub over that way called Jackie O's. Do you remember that, Tam?
Yeah, because they latterly gone back to the restaurants. When Jackie O's had closed, they opened a fairly decent steak restaurant on the premises right down at the front at Kirkcaldy, and it was excellent. But I could ask Roughie a question, by the way. This is my first anniversary, Alan, but the young reporter in PLZ Soccer who did that piece about the Scotland game, he's obviously been with you and Peter since day one. Going back a long number of years now. What's his name again?
It'd be Gabriel come Gavin.
Come on, what's his full name? What's his full name, Roughie?
Oh, I'm not even going to attempt his second name.
Honestly, you're a disgrace. By the way, I mean, Stevie, this is what happens because see when you go to 3, Anthony Atse.
Anthony Atse, there you go.
Yes, there you go. Well done, Gabriel Anthony Atse. This is the thing, Stevie. I mean, if you can you imagine joining Hearts and your goalkeeper who's been to 3 World Cups can't even remember your name or how to pronounce it and ends up calling you just another name? Have you ever had that before?
Anthony,
hey, did you ever get that at Everton? Because there was a few millionaires down there, wasn't there?
No, to be fair, I couldn't really tell you. I just kept my head down for the first year. Kept my head down and accepted any names they called me.
Yeah. Craig Govan says, why is Stevie Naismith not in the squad? Is it because he's not playing at the moment or injured, as most of the squad haven't been playing? I mean, there's a fair reason for it, Stephen, why you're not in the squad at the moment.
Yeah, it was more, I think the biggest thing was our lack of even training. And how stop-start it ended up being. That was a big issue. And yeah, the manager obviously kind of made the call to go with others, but I've said any time I've spoke about it, I just need to get back playing. The manager's been very straight with me and said if I'm fit and playing every week, then he'll definitely consider me. So that's got to be the short-term goal for me.
Yeah, before I get your guys to give me a prediction on this, we've all had a stab at what we think will be a starting lineup. Just interestingly enough, Stephen, do you prefer in all the teams that you've played for? Do you like a 3-5-2 or do you like a 4-3-3 or a 4-4-2 to play in?
I prefer 4 at the back. As much as I think the manager will go 3 at the back this time, I prefer. I preferred it because the players we had throughout most of my Scotland career, you've predominantly had a few midfielders and kind of off the striker types. So try to fit them into a team. It's better for me if you play 4 at the back, 2 kind of sitting midfielders, and have 3 players behind a striker that maybe are wingers or number 10s. I think that gives you a bit more flexibility. And that's, I feel, more natural in that formation.
Yeah, is that because obviously, I mean, Tam, you were going to say something there?
No, I'm just going to say that for fans, other stuff fascinates me. See, when you hear about it from professionals like Stevie, it just took me back. I told Roughie this last night when we were at a wee charity event that I was sitting, I'd get the gig for Radio Scotland when we finished doing the show last Thursday, Peter, for the Motherwell Glen touring game. And as a supporter, the tactics and the shape of the team and the formation, hands up, is no sort of the sort of stuff that you dwell on when you're sitting with your pals at a game. You tend to talk about other stuff. But we were sitting there doing the game. John Barnes of the BBC was doing the commentary. Alan Preston was sitting to my right, and when the team lineups came in, they were looking and trying to guess what formation Motherwell were playing at the back. Was it a flat back 4? Was it a back 3? You know, was it a 5 or whatever it may be? And it's great as a supporter when you get the insight for professionals like Stevie, or in this case Alan Preston, because out and anywhere when the players were out doing their warm up, still with the sweatshirts and all that on, the cones on the pitches, Alan Preston suddenly wrote down to John, "It's a 4. It's a 4. They're going with a 4." And I'm looking, I'm thinking, how does he know that? But when you looked on the pitch, he pointed out the fact that one of the coaches was throwing a ball for headers back from what indeed was the back 4, and they were on the pitch in the formation that they did indeed start the game in. So I'm fascinated by all that stuff because it normally goes right over my head. That's why it's great having somebody like Stevie on the show. But to answer the earlier question, the reason he's not in the squad is because we can't start picking guys for the lower leagues. I mean, we're meant to be a major.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a backward step.
Just in case he was on a downer, he's on one now after that line.
Cheers,
You've
Sam.
been carrying him for a full week. Yeah, exactly. Of course, Roughie, it was easier in the day, especially the 82 World Cup when we played Brazil, because we knew right away it was a 10. It was a 10 at the back. We knew that from the minute Socrates got the ball. It was just 10 in front of you, just to try and stop the wave after wave of attack. Anyway, apart from that, hi to Willie Dunn, who's joined us, a good old friend from many years ago. Hi to Niall Kane as well. And Lorraine, now here's a name. I have to say, she says, "Hi guys, I retired today after 29 years as a paramedic in the Scottish Ambulance Service. And as a Jambo, can I get a hi from Stevie Naismith?" And this is from Lorraine. Now, I think it's Cicalese. It's an Italian. It looks like an Italian name, Stevie, but she's a Jambo. And a hi from you to Lorraine.
Hi, Lorraine. I'm going to do a roughie and not try and pronounce your second name. But no, keep supporting the Jambos. Hopefully it's a good season. Good success.
Yeah,
come on,
get back in the Premier League.
Stephen, come on, you've played in the English Premier League. Get your tap off. You're doing a video here. Come on.
Yeah.
We'll not tell anything.
Lorraine, it's a joy that you are watching us, and thank you very much for staying. Listen, 29 years as a paramedic, you deserve a wee rest, and we, like so many others, are indebted to you for your contribution to the health service. So we are very lucky to have you watching this show, and thanks to Stephen for saying a hi there. From next week, Lorraine, you'll be known as Jeff. It's easier for us to pronounce. There's no point in trying to. Roughie will do a message to you next week. Hi, Jeff. Good luck with the Jambos.
And incidentally, Peter, Willie Dunn, they'll never say that about Roughies.
No, absolutely not. Willie was a good lad. I remember him very well. Right, good lad with some good laughs. Let's hope he doesn't write a book. Also, Stevie Tops says Jackie O's was called Garrison beforehand. Now, that's when you know somebody is old, when they actually tell you the nightclub's name first time around, to be perfectly honest with you. Anyway, thanks for that, Stevie. Lots of people giving us their thoughts on the scoreline. We'll give you then, with this technical ability that we have from Stevie Naismith there, I'll give you the 11 that I think I would pick, and then we'll go through them all and see where you've gone with your own choices. So this is mine. I think Marshall in goal, Cooper, McKenna and Tierney. I'm open to a little bit of criticism there because that's three left-footed central defenders. But I can tell you that I think Gordon Strachan was forced down that alleyway a few years back as well, having to play three. But I've gone with that three anyway. Forrest and Robertson in the flanks. I've gone McTominay, McGregor and McGinn. I think that's got a bit of solidity to it. Certainly got a good engine. And McGregor for me is just a class act. And I've got Christie alongside Dykes. So that's my starting 11. What do you make of that? Stevie Naismith, are you buying into it? Where's the criticism coming in that one?
I'm buying into the formation. I think it'll be the same formation. You spoke about Callum and John McGinn in the middle of the park. They're two, I think, that are going to play definite. The performances over the last year has been solid. Probably the biggest talking point is going to be the defence because it's the most up for grabs at the moment. But I'm similar to you. I think it'll be a 3.
Yeah. Okay, Tam, let's have a look at your 11 to see where you've gone with your selection. Talk us through it.
Well, first up, you might notice a glaring omission. One, Andy Robertson. Arguably the greatest and highest profile Scotland player we have just now. This is almost in a part, Peter, with me giving you my predictions for the top flight at the start of the season, realising I'd only picked 11 and then stuck Livingston at the bottom and then getting harangued by everybody in West Lothian ever since. What happened this morning when you asked for this, I went straight to the SFA website looking, because of all the stuff with guys like McBurnie and the way some players' attitude is to the international setup, I thought I want to get the absolute up-to-date squad, and for some reason they didn't quote Andy Robertson. Maybe you'll know why. So anyway, that's the reason he doesn't feature. We don't want him to get too big-headed anyhow. You know, we can leave him out every now and again. He's won the EPL and the Champions League and all that, you know. So I'm going there, a flat back four, if you like. Classic back four. classic four in the middle, and the two up front. I had to get James Forrest, the goal that he scored against Motherwell last Sunday, just a wee touch of swerve in it outside of the right boot. Absolute peach. I'm a big fan of his. And Lyndon Dykes, we need to get the boy in there right away tomorrow night to see exactly what he can do. But all kidding aside, I had erroneously omitted Andy Robertson due to the website I looked. It was maybe a wee bit out of date. I would have had him in there. But again, Peter, and we keep, how many times have we said it with Scotland? I've said it with Motherwell for the start of the season. On paper, that is a brilliant, brilliant starting lineup. But it remains to be seen what happens on the night.
Yeah, absolutely. It's listen, these mistakes can be made, Tam. Don't forget to join us next Thursday when Stuart Cosgrove joins the team. He's signed a year's deal with us. Stevie, don't bother taking his.
He's not got a year left in him.
But to be fair, Tam, I didn't mean that you were leaving is to replace Roughie. We just hope he's got a year left in him, by the way. It's as simple as that if he keeps waiting behind the charity dues. Anyway, apart from anything else, I was going to say to you all, Andrew Davison said, hey, Peter, give the lady paramedic a mention. She's just retired after 29 years. Andrew, we did do that, and Lorraine's well happy with it. So you don't need to dismantle his side, Stephen. Let's have your 11 to see where you've gone in your selection process.
Yeah, I think I've went back three. Again, take the note of the left-footed defenders, but I think that it'll go back. I think it'll be a back three because Tierney and Robertson, they're both going to play. They're both playing very well. In the middle, I've went with Callum and John because of, again, their performances over the last 2 years have been very good. I think John could potentially change with Stuart Armstrong in this system, which might give a bit more flexibility. And Dykes will come in. I think he's probably the one that's on form most at the moment. And Ryan Christie, for me, is just class act and somebody who can't be left out.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Palmer and Robertson on the flanks. I think you're right with regards to your team selection. We're not too far away from each other on that, Stephen. I think the Stonewall certainty after speaking to Stephen Clark was the fact that it would be Tierney in a left centre-back role. He's just not going to leave the two of them out, Roughie. Have you got them in your starting 11, Roughie?
Yeah, I think we've been working together too long because we've got the exact same team apart from the goalkeepers. And the only reason I've changed the goalkeepers is the boy McLaughlin is playing. He's had 5 shutouts, he's in form. And I don't think David Marshall's played for 2 or 3 months. I don't think it would be fair on him to throw him into that game. But it would all be what they've done when they've met up and how they've went in training, how they've looked in training. If David Marshall has looked absolutely sharp, then he would get the place. But I've only put him in there because of the form that he's in. And apart from that, it's the same as you. I think James Forrest is due as a turn out in that side. I think he's a proven goal scorer from that position. And as I said, I think we're all just hoping that they all click on the night. The back three look pretty solid. I think they'll just play with one up front. But for me, international games now are won when the midfield dominate the game. And then, fortunately, if you've got a couple of strikers, you get a goal or two. So for me, I think the midfield's a strong point. So I'm hoping they are very, very good tomorrow night.
Yeah, fingers crossed on it, and we'll stay disagreeing on the goalkeeper. Just on that point, Tam, Johnny Mullaney says, Tam, do you think Declan Gallagher will get on at some stage in the match? And you've got him in your starting lineup. He might start. What do you make of him? Do you like what you're seeing over the period of last season and the start of this season, Tam?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a big fan of his. I'm a wee bit shocked that Stevie Naismith has dropped both Stephen O'Donnell and Declan Gallagher, presumably because they're with the team at the bottom of the league, yet he's still looking for caps for players who are an entire league below. I mean, that is baffling. What has Motherwell ever done to upset you, Stephen? Declan Gallagher's like Beckenbauer, and even though we have been struggling, I'm genuinely myself I'd be troubled to try and pinpoint the goals that he's been responsible for that we've lost. I think he's been spot on still this season. So I'm astonished at that. There's clearly something that happened in Stephen's past in Motherwell that he's not telling us about.
Yeah, well...
Just the abuse I've taken over the years.
I was just about to say, Stephen, hope you're not getting too much abuse, because you're going to have a staff night out with us at some point when we're all allowed to. Stephen McNamara says, Peter, does Nazy reckon Suter would have started if he was fit, because Stephen reckons he's better than Cooper? I have nothing but sympathy for John Suter, Stephen. What a tragedy, this whole injury and subsequent injuries before that.
Yeah, it's probably the toughest I've seen some player or a single player have to go through. Very, very sad last week when he got the news of that. I personally thought at the moment, just before his injury, he was pushing on. He was in that category of kind of talking about what English team's going to kind of pick him up in the Championship or something like that. But no, the one thing about John is he's very, very strong mentally, and he'll definitely come back. But he's just got to look to get back fit first of all, and kind of the international thing will happen when it happens, when he's back fully fit and he's past his injuries.
Yeah. Don't forget, if you are listening on the podcast, it's that time of the programme when you get a chance to have a little break, because you'll have heard Roughie's ice cubes moving in his drink when he takes a drink. He always tries to disguise it, but as soon as somebody goes into full frame, Roughie has a wee drink of his gin and tonic, and then he becomes a stronger player in the second half. He's more opinionated in the second half of the programme once he's had a right good swally of that gin. So we expect some hard-hitting stuff from him. And apologies to the podcast people who were just checking about to wonder where the ice was coming from in the broadcast. We're going to hear from Stevie Clarke and Andy Robertson before the end of the show. And the reason I mention that is because we talk about lack of communication and the fact that they can't actually send a 3-minute video quickly over to everybody from the Orium. It's not the back end of the world. They should hire PLZ Soccer and we can just send it to them in 2.1 seconds. But clearly it is getting very difficult for people to organise Zoom calls, record them and send them out. So hi to Alison, who joins us, as well as Ronnie Porter, Stevie Martin, Michael Creighton as well. There's lots of people joining us on Facebook. I'm going to mention a lot of the YouTube followers as well. But we'll move on to a couple other points that I want to get your thoughts on, guys. Stephen, you're well aware of the setbacks that can happen with COVID and the difficulties of not being able to train under the Hearts umbrella. But Rangers were hoping to get a test event, but this Glasgow lockdown again prevents them from maybe getting some fans in against Dundee United. And this is off the back, by the way, of the fantastic news. Rangers have sold out their season tickets. I think it's something like 46,500 people have committed to season tickets, Stephen.
Yeah, I understand the government's point of view, and it's a very tough situation that we're in, but we're now going past your summer and going to the latter stages of the year. Before you know it, you'll be in winter, and everybody with a sniffle won't be allowed to go back to work. And it's weird. There needs to be a point that we do trial things to test. It was kind of like coming out of lockdown. We came out of lockdown, see if there's any spikes or things like that. We surely can try a few test events to see whether it is actually going to be a viable option or not. Because I think in Scottish football, it plays such a big part financially, but also in the actual 90 minutes, it plays such a big part that we need to see if it's going to work or if it's not.
Yeah, I mean, listen, there is the biggest and the most difficult balancing act here, Tam, is quite simply you have businesses, clubs, looking at the financial nightmare that's unfolding, and they are trying to balance that and push to get people back in for survival. And that is at the expense of medical advice and safety and some people's life.
Yeah, and I just hope, Peter, that when the good times return, that the clubs like Rangers, whose fans have bought out every single season ticket, but they can't see a game. Yeah, they can get a stream and they can watch it on their iPad or on their laptop or whatever, but it's clearly not the same thing. But they have still bought into the whole concept of a season ticket in these incredible numbers. The Celtic fans have done it as well, of course. The Motherwell fans have done it in our own way and in our own numbers. And I just really, really hope that when the good times return, fans who traditionally are treated like mugs, and in some cases treated absolutely abhorrently by the boards at their club, I hope they will remember back to the COVID era, when fans basically bought season tickets for games they couldn't attend. I mean, in some respects, you could say it's bonkers. You think as well of all the working class guys out there who maybe were getting a wee bit of pressure for their other halves before investing in season tickets. It's hard enough normally to put that kind of money out there up front during the summer when you've maybe just come back for a wee summer holiday that you could barely afford, and then you're splashing out on a season ticket. For fans to do it now, for the Rangers fans to do it now, when their wives might be saying, wait a minute, a season ticket and you can't even get inside Ibrox. Are you off your nut? So that it's absolutely brilliant. Good on the Rangers fans for doing that, and let's hope they are treated rightly when the good times come back.
Yeah, well, Stuart Robertson, the chairman, has been obviously very, very positive about the figures and how they've taken up the full allocation. Robert Kerr says on YouTube, I can't see any test events happening now. Roughie, it was something that I mentioned to you. I don't know if you are aware of the time. Maybe 6 months ago, when we were right in the middle of this, right at the start of it, and all the way through it, I mentioned to you that I did not see fans in any great numbers inside any stadia across Scotland in 2020. I thought it would be next year.
Yeah, and obviously we were all told about a second spike. That was the worrying thing, and that proves to be true in certain areas. So I think the government have to be very cautious in everything that they do. We know the bigger clubs are pushing for maybe 1,000 in or 1,500 in. You know, would have to be stringently tested. I saw on the telly there that there's some English clubs allowing 2,500 in this weekend. So it's all a matter of, you know, the testing for me, and you've been very thorough in that. I think there's a massive worry for the full-time clubs, you know, when they come up against the part-time clubs, because we've already heard what Stevie's doing at Hearts, you know, how stringent it is, and I know what we're doing at Partick Thistle. I don't believe for a minute the part-time clubs are exhausting the same avenues. So for a lot of clubs, that's a big worry. Obviously, we know that the part-time boys are out working, and they're meeting 3-4 times as many people as the full-time players are meeting. So that's something further down the line I think we'll have to keep our eye on, you know, that everything is thorough and with every team, not just some teams.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're 100% correct, Roughie, on this one. The only problem I have with it all, Stephen, is clubs are running out of money, and some of the lower league clubs are, you know, they will announce in the next couple of months real pain, and that's where I have a great amount of sympathy for.
Yeah, the expenditure of just doing the testing to the levels it's required now is astronomical for a lot of clubs, and it's not even as if clubs have got the reserves there that they're saying, right, we'll sit and we'll just use that. And there's no end point here. They're like when games start, so the lower league teams don't need to test all the time, but when games start, they could be playing cup games against teams who are testing twice a week. At the moment, their games can't go ahead. So it's a very fragile situation, to say the least. In terms of the fans in stadiums, I think one of the biggest logistics is actually getting in the stadium. How do you police 1,000 people turning up to a stadium and getting in the stadium whenever they want? It's difficult.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the biggest problem, Tam. You know, whether it's 1,000 or whether it's 50,000, the 1,000 that are going in this test event it's how they approach the ground. It's how they're obeying the rules. It's wearing masks.
Yeah,
I mean, it's all of that, Tam.
Yeah, well, Peter, I can bring you even right up to date in that about how, you know, disconcerting the whole thing is. I was over at Fir Park today, in Motherwell to pick up a couple of match programmes for last week, and I was speaking to Robert Park, who's the head of security at Motherwell, and he had done his own study. And when you're talking about safe social distancing, fans being able to get inside Fir Park, the figure he was bandying about for a stadium that holds just under 14,000 was 1,029. And that would be, spread out between the four stands. So, I mean, that you just think, how are you meant to manage that? And as he agreed on, the trickiest bit is actually getting the fans in and out at the turnstiles, of course. As far as the clubs go, when I think a lot of people forget, when you think at the clubs, or even if they can get 1,000, at least the fans will still spend money on pies and bovrils and that. No, they won't, because you've noticed at so many places now, the catering facilities within a lot of places now are just simply closed. I mean, even when I went to get a repair done in my car the other week, I thought, oh, that's good. I'll sit and wait in it and I'll get a nice wee coffee out the machine. That was gone. That was all taped off. So it's the new normal. So I tend to side with you, Peter. I don't think we will get fans in the grounds in any shape or form until next year. And I really can't see the tests going ahead. I think they were scheduled for the week after next. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's a good point. I think all of us are well aware of the fact, and Stevie touched on it there. I was speaking to a couple of lower league chairmen who said, after this month, when you consider the amount of money that it takes for the testing, they won't be able to afford it because the money's just running out quickly. Hi to Matt McCall, who's watching. Martin, good to hear your name. We haven't heard it for quite a long time. Good to see that you're watching us on our Facebook as well. So many people. John Adams as well, Gary McGurn, Ian Crichton as well. And Ian Crichton says Scottish Rugby managed it. People were given time slots and were all pretty local to the stadium. And I think I was speaking to a few people down south who've gone to a couple of games. I was speaking to Mark McGee, Roughie. He was at the Brighton game. And there was 2,000 there. So they were all able to approach the ground. I said to him, what does it feel like? He says, it felt like you were there early at 1 o'clock and there was only when you get to a ground really early, there's not that many people about. He says, I had that feel about it, but people did obey the rules and were able to go in there and distance themselves.
Yeah.
I mean, the other thing about it, who gets the tickets? You can't sing.
Well,
these are the things as well that people are going to have to obey the rules.
Yeah, that's the point that we discussed about, and I think Tam made a couple of points of who should get the tickets, season ticket holders or blah blah blah, and all the different things the suggestions we come up with, and then lo and behold, it's your postcode. It's the postcode that gets you in the game. It's if you're in an area around the stadium and you're in a zone that is better protected than anybody else, that's who gets in the stadium. That's how the rugby worked it. If you were in a postcode round about Murrayfield, you get first shout to get into that game because they could monitor everybody that was in there because they all came from a relatively near postcode to each other.
Yeah. Okay.
Wait, whoa. Stop the bus. Wait a minute, Roughie. Dearie me. I reckon I live in the same postcode as Firhill. This isn't mandatory, is it? I've no got to go and watch Partick Thistle.
You're welcome. Yeah, you're welcome anytime.
Yeah. I don't know if you're aware of this.
See what you said about going early, and Mark McGee saying that was a joyous thing. I don't know the last time you'd have done it, Peter, ever, for all the years you've been in broadcasting. When I go to Fir Park after doing the radio on a Saturday, I'm lucky if I get in my seat at 10 to 3. But see, if I wasn't on the radio one Saturday and fans were allowed in the ground, call me a big kid, but I actually would love the idea. Maybe it's just a wee bit of nostalgia. You get into your ground, get into Fir Park, into your seat at something daft like 1:45 before a 3 o'clock kick-off, and just watching the players get through their paces, just seeing the away fans trickling in, looking up behind me and seeing who's there for the media and spotting some faces. That whole side of football, I always just think is brilliant. And I feel more and more sentimental about stuff like that because we can't get into the grounds now. And I can kid you not as well, as I did say, I popped out to Fir Park today. I should have been just there and back, but you're almost wanting to linger because the wee kid comes out in you and you think, wow, Fir Park, and you think all the happy times you've had there. It's absolutely heartbreaking, and it really is.
Tell the truth, Tam. You just want to get in early so you can see the formation, and then when all your mates come in, you go,
Aye.
oh, I know it's 4-3-3 the day, boys.
Aye.
How do you know?
I've
How do you
thought
know
that
that,
one.
Tom?
Honestly, I'm going to do that the next time we're all able to get into the ground. That was brilliant. The things that you learn, 51-year-old and I'm still learning. Brilliant.
That's absolutely magnificent. Alec Mitchell has possibly come up with something which I think is going to be vitally important to 1,000 people who get into a ground. He's just reminiscing nostalgically, it has to be said. He says, what about half time and you're bursting for a pee? You can actually still, you can't, I mean, the press could go to the toilet. I wonder how they would actually handle that whole thing, to be honest with you, Tam. That's a tough one, isn't it?
Well, the only thing I know that in terms of the procedures, the rules, the regulations, and I'm very proud the main club, Motherwell here, very, very strict. At that game last Thursday, Peter, Alan Preston at one point during the game was absolutely busting for the loo. He was broadcasting live, and he went along to the end of the road, down the steps, aiming to go for a pee, and he was immediately sent straight back up the stairs by one of the officials at Motherwell because he had to put his mask on. It was the matter of the official at Motherwell saying, oh, it's Alan Preston, no, he's no way. He was sent straight back up the stairs.
Tam, we have to stop you there. I mean,
Is he miming there?
know. Well, what I was thinking, Stephen, is what he doesn't know is it's either his mic cables come out or his battery has gone in his mic. But I'll tell you one thing, though, for the benefit of people who are putting money on who's going to win the November election in America, Tam gave you it there in the last 60 seconds, but we didn't hear one iota of it. So I just hope his microphone, your microphone's gone. It's gone. That last 60 seconds was unknown. He's gonna have to come out and check it again. Look, by the way, there it is. I think there was something there, Tam. We felt it could be the cable. It could be the cable, but hopefully, Stevie, you're getting your own backing him up for the start of the show. Oh, fantastic. Anyway, hi to Stuart Callahan, who's there, and also Eddie Snedden, who's a little bit critical. He says, why let fans in when people can't even keep their distance in the street? I mean, this is the thing about it. This is the worrying thing. Quite a lot of people responding to the fact that Tam's microphone's not working there. And Brian McNair scathingly says he's better on mute, and it's a blessing, says John Adams. It's Tam says, I know, I've heard it all before. Of course, I have to tell you, the best time ever, Roughie, I've ever been in his company when nobody could hear him was in Port Glasgow with the worst microphone in history, where 300 people in Port Glasgow's town hall decided that they would all start a fight with each other. So they kicked off, had a full scaler, and then, of course, Tam started singing Neil Sedaka at the Hungry Years. It was magnificent. I think Tam is hopefully with a bit of luck. John Aird mentions Tam's like Norman Collier. Yes, but don't worry about it. He's going to go and fix his microphone. We're going to let him go and try and have a go at it anyway. There you are, Roughie. Hey, how to get rid of Cowan after a year? blow his microphone up.
Yeah. So when can we start talking about him now?
That's very professional, Peter there. Cut him off because he was talking more than usual on the show.
Go on.
Well, Stevie, the thing about it is I checked your contract which we'd signed, which is nobody shall give you pelters or your team in the lower leagues. And he did it too much in the contract, so I had to get rid of him right away. Anyway, so Gary McGurn doesn't remember Norman Collier, but Gary, you're absolutely right. It's the comedian that pretended his mic wasn't working, and that was it there. Listen, all sorts of transfer speculation, things like this. I love the press sometimes, Stephen, when Shane Duffy signed for Celtic, and today's headline is Celtic contemplating longer term deal for Shane Duffy. He hasn't even kicked a ball yet. He could be a complete donkey, but suddenly the press have Celtic negotiating for a long term deal.
Yeah, it is what it is. The stories that come out are weird and wonderful sometimes. Like you say, you could come up and have a nightmare, and the headlines will be all about him not signing, but to be fair, I think going on to say what he is as a player, he's a very good player. I was at Everton when he was a young boy, and I think one thing that goes on, or he doesn't get the benefit for, is how good he is on the ball. He's very good coming out with the ball at his feet, so big signing for Celtic.
Well, that's an interesting point that you're making, Stephen, which hasn't been highlighted. Obviously, you would have had experience, as you mentioned, with him at Everton. I think everybody here, just because you don't get a chance to see some players play, everybody's looking at him and thinking he's just a big stopper who heads the ball away. You're seeing much more, a different side to him.
Yeah, I think, don't get me wrong, in both boxes he is very aggressive. Like, he's all in, attacking the ball or defending. But when you're at a team and you're playing possession, and he's very comfortable in that environment, he'll comfortably take a touch, look for the best pass, and then execute it rather than panic, if you like, when he's on the ball, which I think signing for Celtic, he's going to need to have that calmness on the ball.
Yeah. Also, Una says the perfect gift for Tam for his 1 year anniversary is, of course, a new microphone. And everybody's hanging on his every word now because I am laying odds. Is it working, Tam?
Is it? You hear me?
No, we can't. Yeah, yes, absolutely. Well, all you need to do, Tam, is actually take your microphone out of your broadcasting equipment now, and we'll be able to hear you through your iPad. I'm almost certain it's as simple as that. With a bit of luck, if he's smart enough about it. It looks as if it needs a battery, Roughie. Every now and then, it's a little bit of technology. You've got to talk them through it.
It just shows you how these BBC people get mollycoddled. I mean, everything's done for them. It's ridiculous.
It is. That's exactly what it is. It's as simple as that. All you have to do is take everything out of your take that out. Take your ears out. Take everything out of your iPad, and you'll be able to hear us, Tam. It's as simple as that. Fingers crossed. And with a bit of luck, go on then. Yes. I think we've got him. Yes, Tam. Oh, he's doing... That's you. We can hear you. Yeah, say something.
Perfect.
No, you're refusing to talk. Right, okay, can't hear us. Oh, God. I'll get him to reconnect. You couldn't make this up. A lot of people talking about... what about Charlie Adam? I mean, Charlie's on a Wednesday and a Friday as well, Stevie. It looks as if James McPake mentioned that he's trying to pull out all the strokes to try and get a deal that's acceptable to get it over the line to get Charlie to Dundee. I mean, that would be a great signing for Dundee.
It would be. I think his experience alone, probably a similar situation to myself. You're going to a club that is a big England, and having that experience that he's had throughout his career, it would be a very good signing. All through Charlie's career, I think he's always had a reference to Dundee from there, so it could be a nice fitting way to kind of play your last few years out.
Yeah, he did mention to us, Roughie, he is a Dundee fan. I just wonder what kind of incentive they're going to give him. Maybe all the flats just across from Dens Park, just a whole row of them. He can rent them out to somebody just as a deal. I'm not sure how much money he wants in this deal.
Yeah, he's unfortunate that he's wanting to go there with this pandemic that's on. You know, Hearts are the same as Aberdeen. They've let players go, let a lot of players go. They've let staff go. Jimmy Nicholl get released, and the players are on wages. You know, and then all of a sudden you want a quality player into your club, and you don't want any unrest. So it's a really hard one to get your head around. You know, obviously it's not Charlie's fault that he wants a really, really good deal, but it's the circumstances, and I think they are doing their best, you know, to come up with something. So we'll just have to wait and see what it is.
Yeah, let's hope he comes back to Scotland. I'd love to see him playing there. Of course, one man who's on his way out. It looks as if the deal, well, it's been getting closer and closer every day for Aaron Hickey to Bologna. I know the priority, he's still a young boy, Stephen. You want him to play. I wonder if would that be a sticking point for him? I mean, I know there's money involved, but would the sticking point be that he's got to play?
I think that's big on the checklist. Has got to be that he doesn't stagnate in the same kind of level. And as we've spoke about in the past weeks, playing's a big part for any young player. But from talking to him, he understands that. It's not as if he's naive to think, I'm just doing this, I'm just going to go here, I'm told to go here, I'm going to sign there. He's sensible. He understands how big a decision it is, and I'm comfortable and I'm confident that he'll make the right decision for him, because he is a very talented player and he understands. And I go back to when he was a young kid at Celtic and he wanted to move away from Celtic to get better opportunities to get to a first team, and he done that at coming back to Hearts. So that just shows the character that he is.
Yeah, I mean, yet again, it's another left back though, Roughie, isn't it? I mean, we'll get so many great, talented left backs.
We have, but it'd be incredible if he was to go over there. And I read that he is going to be back up to their first choice full back. But it'd be great. Things can happen, and all of a sudden you find yourself in the first team, and then they see how good he is. And we saw how much Tierney and how much Robertson came on when they got a chance. And I think he'll be similar. I think we'll get a right good player, maybe versatile as well. You know, we've seen he can play in a few positions. So it's a big ask. Stevie will tell you. He'll be advised by lots of people. You know, I'm sure his family, I'd like to think he would speak to people like Stevie. His agent will obviously have something to say about it. So, and on the whole, you know, when you're a young man and you've all that thrown at you, you just hope you make the right decision. And I'm sure we all agree in that he does, and he becomes a much, much better player.
Yeah, I have to say to you, I just got the word there from Tam. He did mention to me, Roughie, it was, as I suggested, the battery in his microphone had gone. I mean, that's something I don't think you've ever made a mistake with, not having a spare battery for anything.
No, you forget the day with you and I missed that there, but I got it eventually.
Nazy's got to guts of this show now. You know, this is Nazy on the BBC. This is Nazy on the BBC show. Yes, yeah, it'll be a 4-4-2. Yeah. Let's solve the. This is Nazy on this show. Telepathy.
Don't change my voice.
Yeah.
Oh, on a serious note, if you remember, they did go down when Hugh was on, and I actually made the effort to go up to Tesco and get another one, and came back and finished the show. So let's see what he comes up with.
There's no chance of that, Roughie, because he is from that BBC brigade, and the BBC always have 15 people who do things for you. If you're feeling dry, there's a wee bit of a drink for you. If Nazy says he wants some cake appears in the studios. Here, you just suck it up and get on with it. I have to say, and I always say, that's exactly it. I know, can't even get a mic or a battery, and it's you get him off early. Lewis McCallion, I have to say, Greg Wright. This is not the show for you, I have to say. We do like to comment on positive things and negative as well. We also, but sometimes if you are going to post things that are abusive, maybe this is not the show for you. Somewhere else and troll some of the other club websites. But on here, we're talking about Scottish football, talking about your teams, whatever. And we always like to try and preach to people who've been obviously brought up and would make their parents proud with some of the points they make. I always have to, every now and then, Stevie, you'll not get that in the BBC, but every now and then we have to just give somebody a quick leathering with a baseball bat to try and bring them back down to earth with a bit of decency. Just a couple of things I want to get from you guys before we go. Of course, your old club, Nazy, Everton. Oof, Ancelotti's got the spending. He's got the checkbook out. James Rodriguez. He's also got Doucouré and the Brazilian international Allen on the radar as well.
Yep. I think over the course of the last year, the manager's shown that he's the real deal. From talking to a lot of the players and staff around there, he has transformed the mentality from what David Moyes built. Martinez continued on, and then it's kind of been a bit of a slippery slope since then. He has really impressed everybody. So I think he's bringing real quality. I think in the last few years, the windows that they've signed players, they've paid big money for players who have not produced the goods. I think this year they're hoping that'll be different with obviously Rodriguez and a few other boys coming in. So hopefully it's another season where they can push on and try and push that top four.
Yeah, absolutely. He's certainly getting the right type of player. I think he's a really good, high-profile manager for Everton. Chelsea have signed Kai Havertz for 89 million. Some amount of money, Roughie, down south as well. And over and above that, Donny van de Beek signed for Manchester United, 35 million. But I thought, and this is why I love football and why I think, there are footballers who just sometimes make you feel, great as a human being. I mentioned the other day there Marcus Rashford, but what a nice touch from Edwin van der Sar, who typed out on Ajax paper a message to the Manchester United fans, just saying, you have one of our own from the Ajax Academy. He's a boy that they all love. He's a boy that's grown at Ajax in the Amsterdam Arena. Please take care of him. He's one of our own. I had a great time at Manchester United. Look after him. You will love him. He's a great player. What a touch of class.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, he is a legend there at Man United, and let's hope this boy has the same. As some of the big Dutch players who have come over to English football, and they've been absolutely fantastic. If he lives up to most of them, I'm sure he'll be a fantastic player. But what a start for him! And as Nazy knows, you've got to hit the ground running down there. Let's hope he gets on the door very quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. Here's a worrying point. Just, we talk about the riches of the Premier League. I noticed that they've cancelled the deal with China. And it's not down to political issues, Stephen. It's down to financially, the company who are dealing with the rights reneged on a £160 million payment in March. The Premier League decided enough is enough, cut the deal. Now, I think a lot of people will feel the pain of not having that huge deal from China in the checkbooks from the Premier League.
They will. I think that even through the coronavirus, clubs talking up about how it's impacted them. But the one thing the Premier League has is the demand for it. I think that's undoubtedly what you see every year. Having been in it for a period of time, it's unbelievable the amount of people, press, any media outlets coming to training grounds for every day. So they're obviously going to be confident that they can get a better deal. They can play hardball because as a machine, as a product, it is frighteningly well run. I was blown away when I went down there.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of money in there. Apologies that we can't bring you Steve Clarke and also Andy Robertson. The reason is quite simple. The SFA couldn't run a Menage. Quite simple to send video across. I know we can't get a battery to Tam, but there's a slight difference between our budget and the SFA, although it doesn't take long to send an interview over, but clearly it's beyond them. So we'll get you Steve Clarke and Andy Robertson for tomorrow's show. One thing we do have, Roughie, is the man who I hope joins the Premier League, 31 years of age, Gareth Bale. He's fairly put the boot into Real Madrid, said that they wouldn't let him leave last season. Right at the last minute, he was going out the door. And he doesn't know what the future holds for himself as a player.
Yeah, to be the longest serving player here at the moment is quite surreal, to be honest, because I felt even just a couple of years ago I was one of the youngest. So no, it's one of those things that now I have to take the responsibility of making them feel welcome and to try and give everyone a little bit of confidence, which I enjoy doing. And when we get on the pitch, we all have to work hard together as a team, like we always have, and produce performances and results.
Sorry, Roughie, I was going to get your opinion there, but ended up with a Gareth Bale cut about him being the oldest at Wales. But listen, he's got to be playing.
Well, he's no different for anybody else. He's no different for the wee boy Hickey. You've got to be playing. Yeah, it doesn't matter what team you're at. You can sit there and take the money, but if you're not playing not just for one season or the next season, and you know the quality you've got, you just want to be playing. And you put me on. I've started watching that Spurs thing on Netflix, and that looks as if it's the place to go. You know, that is absolutely mega down there, the stadium and everything. So I think we'd keep our eyes on that one. I think he would be an ideal fit for them.
Have you started watching that Tottenham documentary, Stephen? No, he hasn't. He's decided.
No, he hasn't. He's decided to go.
He's decided he's been on for a year, so he's off. He's off as well. Hey, it's one of those days, Roughie, isn't it? It's the way we started nine years ago, Roughie. It's the way we started on this show. Can you believe it? We've done it shown because we weren't happy, and Naismith's just been given a quick boot as well. Well, listen. I'm going to watch the third episode tonight, Roughie, but I do enjoy it. I don't know. Listen, people think life has changed, Roughie, as footballers up and down the country as more and more money comes into the game. It hasn't changed. If you look at the way Mourinho was dealing with Dele Alli, if you look at the way Mourinho was dealing with Eric Dyer, players want to be cuddled. They want to be, their egos massaged. They want to be boosted. They want to obviously play football. It hasn't changed, whether it's Tottenham and multi-millions or somebody earning $2 bob at a junior club. They want to play.
Yeah, they certainly do, and it just shows you when you put your arm around quality players, you generally get your tuppence worth out of them. You're right, they're no different to the wee ordinary players that play for the other teams. They want to be made welcome, and that's certainly what, in the last episode I watched, that's certainly what he's obviously looked at the players, he's assessed them, and he knows the ones that he's got to put his arm around.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just so glad that Naismith's gone as well, by the way, Roughie. I mean, I don't know if you've come. I had to get rid of him. Oh, you're back. There you are. Oh, I was talking there. Yeah, like you need one. Anyway, apart from anything else, just before we go, have you been watching the Tottenham documentary?
Literally started it yesterday. Very impressed. But I must say, on the Man City one as well, it doesn't give me too much detail so far.
Right, but the one thing it does give you, which is the same as I mentioned to Roughie, Stevie, doesn't matter whether you're a footballer from 40 years ago right up until now, Naismith, like Eric Dyer, like Dele Alli, like Harry Kane, want to be wanted, want to be, part of the manager's plans. You want to play.
You do. I think it's that moment of, oh no, a new manager's coming in, what is he going to think of me? That is what throws every player. And like Mourinho in the first episode at training, just prodding wee bits of players, having a bit of fun with them, just try to relax them all. And then I've watched the bit where he had a meeting with Harry Kane, which Harry Kane walked out of that room 10 foot tall.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It'll be interesting to see it if you get a chance. It's on Prime Video. It's quite good. We don't mind promoting everybody and their granny on this programme. Cowan's been promoting restaurants, his BBC show and everything. We do that, Roughie. We promote everything, don't we?
Yeah, and I'd forgot Motherwell had won that cup to come on the show.
Yeah, until he reminds us every week on the show. Listen, we'll bring you Steve Clark and Andy Robertson ahead of tomorrow's show. Roughie will be there, Charlie Adam will be there, and I can tell you Tam McManus will also be on the show, and it'll be hosted by Gabriel Antoniazzi on Friday and on Monday as well. Enjoy your international football. Thanks to everyone for all the nice messages as well. Lorraine, 29 years, paramedic, brilliant, and thanks to Stevie for giving her a nice little message as well. Stevie will be back with us next Thursday, pending, of course, the batteries and whether I can get them through to him in enough time. Tam Cowan, will he have the batteries? That's just for you to wait and find out for next Thursday. From Roughie, from Stevie Naismith, from Tam Cowan, as flat as a pancake, and from myself, Peter Martin. Don't forget, like, share and follow us on Facebook. Subscribe on our YouTube channel. Thank you for watching. Have a great weekend.
Expect the best used car deals guaranteed. Visit arnoldclark.com.